Assalamu alaikum. May peace be on all of you. This is in continuation to the sequel which I have started some days back, wherein I am discussing with you people the terms related to COVID 19. Okay, this is the third part of the sequel. I have already posted two videos in which I have discussed near about 8 to 10 terms. Let me briefly recap all of them for you. In the first video, I told you what's a virus, and then I told you what are coronaviruses, and then I told you why we call them corona, and then I told you why we call this particular virus as novel coronavirus. And then I told you what's the difference between COVID-19 and SARS-CoV-2, because these were very two confusing terms. And then in the last of the first video, I told you what is the difference between an anthropogenic disease and a zoonotic disease. In the second video, I told you what is the difference between the terms pandemic, epidemic, endemic, and I briefly discussed in front of you what do we mean by the term outbreak. Okay. So today, in context of the disease and in context of the sequel I have started, I am discussing with you guys another term which is called as reproduction number. Now, what is reproduction number? A reproduction number is a mathematical expression which shows the contagiousness of a disease. Okay, it is an expression which tells you that on an average how many people can be infected by a disease, by a person who has got a particular disease. It is written as R0 and is pronounced as R0. I have done some jugad here because I don't have all the things with me. So this is R0. If you we write it like this, R0. Pronounce it as R0. Okay, this was a little bit of jugad. Okay. So one thing is there. Now what is this reproduction number? Reproduction number is a mathematical expression wherein we this number shows us how contagious a disease is. For example, let me illustrate. For example, this is the person who has got the disease. Okay. Now this person has got the disease and the reproduction number of that disease is 10. Now, what do we mean by that? This means that this person has got the disease and he will infect new 10 cases. 10 new cases he will on an average infect. But here you have to understand one thing. Out of those 10 cases, no one has the immunity and no one has been vaccinated. Okay, these are two important things which you have to take into consideration. So I'm sure you understood what do we mean by a reproduction number. There are three scenarios in a reproduction number. Okay, one is that when the reproduction number of a disease is scenario is when the reproduction number of a particular disease is equal to 1, and the third scenario is that when the reproduction number of a particular disease is more than 1. See, for example, let me illustrate. If the reproduction number of a particular disease is less than 1, what does that mean? That means that this person is not enough to infect one new case. So this person is less likely to infect another new case. 3 persons may be needed, or in a layman's language. Okay, so what will happen in that case is the disease will eventually die out. In the second case scenario, for example, this person has got a disease X and the reproduction number of that disease is 1. So what does it mean? It means that this person will infect one new person, one new case. So in that case, what will happen? This thing will happen that the disease will remain stable. It will not spread. It will not become an epidemic. Okay, and there will not be an outbreak. Now there comes a third scenario where this person has got the disease X and the reproduction number of that disease is more than 1. Say for example 3. Now if the reproduction number of this disease is 3, this means that this person will infect on an average 3 people. This is where the dangerous part of a disease comes. So when we are talking about COVID-19, it has you might also be aware of this fact that it has a reproduction number of more than 1. This makes it more dangerous. So we can say that mathematically we can prove that this COVID-19 is a very dangerous disease. Okay, so this was the first term which I hope you understood what I meant to say. And second thing, which is related, a related term which I'm going to discuss with you people today, is called as super spreader. Super spreader is a person, is an individual who is more likely to infect others rather than a very typical patient. For example, this person has got a disease. This person has got a disease. The reproduction number of the disease is 2. So in normal circumstances, this person has to infect 2 new cases, but he's infecting 5. What does this mean? This means that he is a super spreader. Okay. The third term which I am going to tell you today is what we call as fomite. What is a fomite? Okay. What is a fomite? Fomite is, let me illustrate again this with an example. I'm carrying this pen outside. I went outside and I dropped this pen somewhere on a metal surface. The metal surface was already infected. It had the virus on it. The virus got stuck onto the surface of this pen. I carried this pen. What does that mean? That means that I carried the virus back home. So this pen became the transport. This pen became the carrier of the virus. So I can say that this pen is the fomite. Likewise, our clothes, our bags, whatever we are getting from outside, they can act as fomites. So that's why we say that whenever we are going outside, we should take care of each and everything. We should come home, straight go to the washroom, wash our clothes, take a bath, and then go to our living room. Okay. The next term which I am going to discuss with you people today is a term which we call as patient zero. Patient zero or index case. Okay, patient zero is the first documented case of an epidemic in a population. Okay, for example, there is an epidemic and the first case which came, we documented this case. The first case which we, for example, in Wuhan, the first case which came, that doctor said this is the first person who has been infected with this novel coronavirus. That patient is called as patient zero or this index case. Okay. Then the last term I will be discussing today is incubation period. So, see, this is a very familiar term. You might have heard this term many a times in the last 10-20 days or maybe a month. But why I have chosen this term is that it has two different meanings in medicine and in biology. In medicine, for example, this is the person who got the infection. Again, I'm illustrating this with an example. This is the person who caught the infection on 1st of March. Till 15th of March, this man didn't show any symptoms. So we can say that these 15 days were the incubation period of this disease. Understood? So we can say that the time taken from the exposure, when you are exposed to an infectious agent, till the time you show some symptoms, we call that time as this incubation period. But it is the definition of incubation period in medicine. In biology, the definition of incubation period is a little bit different. What it is? For example, it is, we can say, any particular process of development, the time taken for any particular process of development. For example, you give eggs to your hen. Okay, I don't know the exact days, say for example after 20, 30, 40 days the chickens come out. So these 40 days is the incubation period, but it is the definition which is the biological definition of incubation period, and in medicine the definition is which I have told you earlier. Okay, in case of COVID-19, the incubation period is 14 days or maybe 20 days. Some people are asymptomatic. This is why it makes it very dangerous. So there are two things which make it very dangerous, this disease. One is the reproduction number. Reproduction number is more than one. One person is more likely to infect more than one person. And the second thing is the incubation period. You don't know who is carrying the infection because he may be asymptomatic. So this was all for today. I hope you enjoyed the information which I gave you. I will again be posting this video on my YouTube channel. Subscribing to, again I will say this, subscribing to my YouTube channel will mean that you are encouraging and appreciating my work. Fi amanillah.